Hello everyone, welcome to another Mighty Explained video. Today we're going to be giving you a quick overview on the cranial nerves, but I'd like to give you a little bit of a disclaimer before we begin. The cranial nerves can be a little bit of a harsh topic to get through on the first try. It's a little bit of a hard concept to grasp at first. Many people like myself have had that same issue, but don't let it get you down. With practice and time, you'll definitely get the concepts down and you will be a certified neuroanatomist. So with that, let's dive right into cranial nerve 1. Cranial nerve 1 is called the olfactory nerve, and just like the name implies, it's responsible for the sense of olfaction, also known as the sense of smell. And I'm circling it over here on the model. We're not going to get too deep into the points of origin for these cranial nerves. In future videos, we will dive into the specific functions, the specific origins of each cranial nerve. This is just going to be strictly a very brief overview that's going to cover the main functions of each cranial nerve. So the next cranial nerve is cranial nerve 2, which is the optic nerve. The optic nerve is responsible for sensing visual information. Something particularly unique about these first two cranial nerves is that they both originate in the cerebrum itself and not the brainstem. So the other 10 cranial nerves all originate in the brainstem. So if you ever find yourself working on an exam question that prompts you about a cranial nerve that does not originate in the brainstem, then you know automatically that you're dealing with cranial nerve 1 or cranial nerve 2, the olfactory or the optic nerve. So with that, let's move on to cranial nerve 3, the oculomotor nerve. The oculomotor nerve, the main thing that you need to know about its function is that it's involved in the movement of the eye. So the eye has 6 extraocular eye muscles. 4 of these 6 are innervated by cranial nerve 3, the oculomotor nerve. We won't dive into the exact eye muscles that are innervated by the oculomotor nerve or their exact functions. That will be something that we will cover in a future video. But for now, just know that the oculomotor nerve is heavily involved in the movement of the eye. Next, we will move on to the trochlear nerve, the cranial nerve 4. The cranial nerve 4 is also involved in the movement of the eye. So as you can see here, it innervates the superior oblique muscle, which is one of those extraocular eye muscles that we were speaking about before. So just know that the trochlear nerve is also involved in movement of the eye. And like I said before, we will dive into the exact functions of these eye muscles in a future video. Next, we have the trigeminal nerve or cranial nerve 5. The trigeminal nerve is split into 3 divisions. The main thing that you should know about the trigeminal nerve is that all 3 of these divisions convey sensory information. Although the mandibular division, V3, is also involved in conveying motor information to the muscles of mastication, also known as the muscles that help you chew. So the trigeminal nerve conveys sensory information and motor information to those muscles of chewing. Next, we have the abducens nerve or cranial nerve number 6. This cranial nerve is also involved in the movement of the eye. It innervates one of the extraocular eye muscles called the lateral rectus muscle. So recall that we said that the oculomotor nerve innervates 4 of the 6 extraocular eye muscles, and the other 2 are innervated by both the trochlear nerve and the abducens nerve. So these 3 cranial nerves are all involved in movement of the eye, and like I said before, we'll dive into the exact functions of each of these extraocular eye muscles and these cranial nerves in a future video. Next, we have the facial nerve. So the facial nerve, as the name suggests, is involved in the innervation of the muscles of the face. It innervates the muscles of expression, so the muscles that you use to raise your eyebrows, the muscles that you use to smile or close your eyes. And the facial nerve is also responsible for transmitting taste information and stimulating glandular secretions. So for these last 2 functions, the taste information and the glandular secretions, there are many caveats and many nuances when it comes to what part of the tongue is innervated by what nerve. but that's something that we'll dive into in a future video. So just know for now that the facial nerve is involved with innervating muscles of expression, it's taste, information, and secretions. Next, we have cranial nerve 8, the vestibulocochlear nerve, which is relatively straightforward. It's also partially in the name. This nerve is responsible for hearing and for balance. Next, we have the glossopharyngeal nerve, which is cranial nerve 9, which is responsible for taste, glandular secretions, and also motor innervation. Next, we have the vagus nerve, cranial nerve number 10, which is responsible for motor innervation of the soft palate and various components of the oral pharynx, some sensory information, and also some taste information. As you can see, taste information has come up in both the glossopharyngeal nerve and the vagus nerve, as well as the facial nerve. That's the concept of just the complication of the taste information in terms of where it originates. So that's definitely something that we'll dive into more in more detail in a future video, just so that we can break it down for you. Next, we have cranial nerve number 11, the spinal accessory nerve. So if you've already had your MSK block, you probably remember that the trapezius and the sternocleidomastoid muscle are innervated by the spinal accessory nerve. And lastly, we have the hypoglossal nerve, which innervates the tongue muscles responsible for moving the tongue. And that's all we have for today. If you do have any questions or concerns, please place them in the comment section below. And we look forward to seeing you at our next video.